Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien speaking on June 1st, Saturday, here in Georgia. It's supposed to be out of the 90s today for the first time in 11 days, huh? Well, me and Bubba are just waking up for the day. Bubba's just here waiting for his friend the Blue Jay. He already gave you a campaign, one of his campaign platforms the other day, so look at the video that says Bubba's campaign for TAP. On how to do Social Security to get it back in solvency there. But today I wanted to do a video to answer Chairman Nadler. So it's his question. If you watched his news conference yesterday, he's trying to walk back impeachment. And he was trying to explain what impeachment is, and as he calls it, a political tool. So the video I'm entitled today is Impeachment, is it a political tool? With a question mark. So here goes the video. Dear Chairman Nadler, this is your favorite alien. I see you have read some of Chief Justice John Marshall to get the word political tool for impeachment, huh? You still, however, are a dum-dum. Sorry. A Democrat, but still a dum-dum because you don't know what that word means. And the way that Chief Justice Marshall used it in 1805. Political tool meant a lot different today. It's like going to a Christmas party and saying, I got my gay apparel. Yeah, right. That's the way you Democrats, unfortunately, don't realize what impeachment is. So here it goes. Dear American people, this is an answer to Chairman Nadler's interpretation of trying to tell you what impeachment is. Impeachment is not a criminal tool to go after a president or judges or justices of the Supreme Court to remove them from office. It is, as Chief Justice John Marshall said in 1805, a political, with quotations around political, tool. Political in his case meant that these people were elected and or appointed and uh, sworn in by a body. In the case of justices of the Supreme Court or judges of federal courts, you know, the president appoints them and the Senate was supposed to consent and advise, right? That's the way it is. Well, that's what he meant by that. As far as impeachment for Mr. Nadler, because he's trying to walk it back, he knows they're in a serious situation here, and I'm glad Mr. Van Jones has told House Speaker Pelosi that she's in a terrible position. Like I called it, Kobayashi Maru. But let me explain about impeachment. It is not a political tool. It is not a criminal tool. But the Congress has used it, both Republicans and Democrats, as a political tool. And let me tell you why. The first impeachment, Andrew Johnson, 1868, that was as political as you can get. Almost as bad as what Chairman Nadler is trying to do today. And let me explain why. In 1865, President Lincoln got shot. That left nobody to understand what post-war America would look like. The radical Republicans, which President Lincoln had kept at bay, now assumed power because the Democrats, well, they were split. Remember, the South didn't exist no more. That's where the power was. So the Democrats were, okay, we go along with that. But remember, Vice President and now President Johnson was from Tennessee, a Southern Democrat. And he started to see what the radical Republicans were doing. So the radical Republicans says, hey, we got a problem here. We got a dum-dum for president. Well, you know, President Johnson may have been a dum-dum, but he was smart. He knew what he was doing. And he started to fight him tooth and nail. In 1867, the Congress, both Senate and House, controlled by the radical Republicans, passed a law called the Tenure Act, or Service of Tenure Act, which forbade the president from removing any office holders that he appointed or was appointed, like Secretary of War, Secretary of State. And, that is an illegal power by the Congress. It's like the Congress was like the U.S. president is today. Bad. So they passed that in 1867 and used that as a hammer to impeach President Johnson in 1868. But unbeknownst to them, some of their brethren, Republicans, said, hey, this smells political to me, and very much so. And the ones that said no, including Mr. Ross, and there was a few other Republicans that went to the no side, and thus they didn't have the two-thirds by one vote. President Johnson should be commended for holding his ground, because that was a unconstitutional uh, law that the Congress passed. And to tell you how constitutional it was, in 1887 it was stripped of most of his power by the Supreme Court. In 1926, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. So you see, that is one, Americans. Number two was the Clinton impeachment by the Republicans. They did exactly the same thing. Use stupid things to go out there, political and moral, which you cannot impeach a president for being an immoral president. That is a no-no. Remember, high crimes and misdemeanors. And the Democrats today are trying to be like the Republicans were in 1868 and 1998, and they forgot about the Democrats of 1974. They were different, and they never did it. Nobody took heed of that here. So therefore, impeachment time has come and gone, and President Trump and his deplorables have the upper hand. Until you understand impeachment, Chairman Madler, you should never have gone after him that way. Now you're fighting a losing battle because you never listened to me. None of you dum-dums ever listened to me. You had the tools to get them, but you didn't get the American people on board. That's what the Republicans never did in 1868 and 1998. The Democrats did in 1974, and you guys didn't remember how. Like I told Congressman Jackson Lee, look at your cohort from Texas, former Congressman Jack Brooks, and he hopefully left the notes there in the office to tell you how he did it. Because there's two guys from this lifetime. If you're 60 years older, you know about this. Congressman Brooks and former President Gerald Ford. They were involved in two impeachments proceedings. One, impeachment of Chief Justice William O. Douglas. And only the people that were over 60 today understand William O. Douglas. He was quite a character. But he was a Supreme Court justice that would make Trump pale in comparison today. That's how Mr. William O. Douglas was. And they tried to impeach him on political grounds in 1970. Didn't work, because you can't impeach a sitting justice on political grounds the same way you can impeach a president. And if you check when he retired in 1975, and President Ford shook his hand and said, bygones are bygones. Well, if a president, because Mr. Ford, as a congressman, hated William O. Douglas with a passion, big time. So see, Americans, this is what you got to understand. Your system, and you don't. This is your favorite alien signing off.